Gonna give context in case you don't know about this. Tom Delonge, founder of Blink-182, he left the band in pursuit for his UFO research. In 2016, Tom Delonge actually won UFO Researcher of the Year award. As someone who's been in this field for a while, I certainly do understand some aspects as to why people want to just kind of shit on the guy because he's kind of a pop artist, you know, breaking into another field. But the truth is that he did encourage one of the more significant data leaks. Because of him, we do have a lot of interesting details that he will get into here. I remember specifically Tom Delonge gained some credibility during the WikiLeaks era. This was like peak craziness for me. Back in 2016, right before the election, they had all those government emails get leaked. And there was stuff like about 0 point energy and Edgar Mitchell talking to John Podesta about bringing 0 point energy to Earth. A lot of talking to multiple people about this. You know, Edgar Mitchell was the sixth man on the moon, which if you know anything about NASA, they're not just going to let anyone be an astronaut. It's extremely strict to a point that it's like discriminatory. You understand? Especially back in the 70s. So Edgar Mitchell was a government boy. He was a good boy. Why the fuck is he talking about bringing 0 point energy to Earth with Obama's staff? And then Edgar Mitchell mysteriously dies right after the election. Fun stuff. Anyway, Tom Delonge was involved in that actually. He was also trying to have discussions with people, and he did bring some multi-star generals into the equation so that they could share their feelings on it. Tom Delonge is interesting, to say the least.
The developments with UFOs. Number one, it's crazy that the government is all of a sudden just sort of saying, yeah, the UFOs are real. You know, there's like, you know, all this, like the government acknowledging.
You know, we did that. I did that.
Wow.
That's why they're doing that.
But what's even...
I don't say that. I sound like a dick when I say that, but I'm like, that's why. There's a whole story here. And then when I put it in there, because I studied UFOs for like 20 years, and I was like, I figured out what's going on. Not just like the bullshit you read or thing. Like I figured out what's going on, and I was like, shit, if I put this out there and open my big mouth.
To give some justification here, that's gonna have to be how anyone does it. You know, we want to believe in this fantasy where you could just go to like a college and learn the secrets of things. But the truth is you're going to have to find everything that slips between the cracks if you have any sort of chance of a coherent and truthful story. You're going to have to consume a lot of lies in order to understand what's true. So even though I might be a crazy salesperson, that is how you would have to do it.
Get in a lot of trouble. So I should probably go ask for some permission. So I spent like a long time working my way in, and then I got into a group of people and they brought me in, and I was given all the permission. So then I come out with a book and I go on national radio and all this shit. Well, apparently that group didn't really talk to another group of some other 3-letter places. Those other places got really fucking pissed because here's this fucking Rockstar kid like telling the biggest national security secrets that we got, period. And so they came and they were like, we need to know who the fuck you are and who the fuck you're talking to and all this crazy Ed Snowden type shit.
Yeah, dude, I'm sorry, man. I was tripping balls.
I know. Dude, I'm sorry, I was stoned.
You know, there's a scene in this amazing show called The Good Place where they have a picture of a guy in like the heaven or like the gods deciding of just this stoner who took a bunch of mushrooms, and they're like, he got the afterlife correct within 95.6%. Just high off his mind and mushrooms and figured it out. You think not one conspiracy theorist, I'm telling you, out of all the conspiracy theories out there, someone has to fall on the spectrum of like, damn, they nailed it. Like they just got blasted off LSD and they're like, there are these grays and they're competing with a slave race of like these fly insect looking things. And then, you know, you zoom out of Earth and they're like, shit, he fucking nailed it. Like, goddamn.
Well, Hillary Clinton was running for presidency against, I guess it was against Trump. And John Podesta was her campaign manager.
Okay.
At the time, he was also senior advisor to Obama. So I was holding conversations with Podesta to get to Obama, and I had 2 multi-star generals from Space Command and the head of Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, that Skunk Works built Area 51, their elite engineering division. I had them all on this like fucking emails, and we're setting up these conference calls and stuff. Well, Hillary Clinton's campaign got hacked by the Russians, WikiLeaks, and it outed all this shit about Podesta and her. And what happened with that was when all these news journalists were pouring through WikiLeaks to see what spilled from Hillary's campaign, they found these fucking emails with me and Podesta talking to these generals about UFOs. So Wall Street Journal threw that onto the Wall Street Journal.
Just him recounting this fills me with so much nostalgia. Like, I was in the heat of that. It was the most insane time. I mean, I remember staying up 22 to 24 hours at a time, just literally scouring every single one of those files, checking on Reddit. They're updating. They're like, is this some possible new info? And they're sending it over. A lot of fucked up shit, man. Mostly stuff about, kind of the USA's understanding of kind of the effects on like the war in the Middle East and them not giving a fuck.
I'm fucked. And I'm like out there like fucking erasing computers and doing all this different, I didn't know what to do. And at that time, all these other government people that came out.
Let me ask you, why would that be a problem for you? If, I mean, there's nothing wrong with exchanging emails with...
That wasn't the issue. The more of the issue was like, the more of the
high
issue...
clearance security.
Just all these guys are holding the secrets of the universe. And it's a much... What would happen in conversations is I just knew things. And then...
I can see that.
Yeah. So what happened, though, is it gave me all this credibility. Because then all of a sudden, all these other people in the government knew that I was like hanging around with some big boys. So they all came out and said, there's a better way to do what you're doing. The company came out to the public, founded by myself, one of the heads of the CIA, and the head physicist for the UFO program.
So kind of what he's getting at here is that he was being loud about secrets that he thinks the government is reading upon and think like, oh, this guy knows what he's talking about, but he never got confirmation. Because, I mean, obviously that does make sense, is that they wouldn't confirm nor deny, but if they were interested in hearing what you have to say, they probably would have a conversation with you. Then they told him that there's a better way to do what you're doing and recommended starting a media company and selling books and movies about all this. Yeah, it's a hard bite. Because on one hand, I can see a reality where humans, like I was saying earlier, need to see things in art before they see them in real life. So maybe they're that self-aware, but the government entity, why would it have any sort of care? If it really was a secret, you think they'd just shut everything down and make it a totalitarian government. But who knows? Maybe there are good faith actors that really do want people to know. And there's a lot of bullshit here, but when you really look at it, there are some weird consistencies that show, yeah, we're being led on about something.
Program. And then I hired the program director, the guy that ran the UFO program. And then I brought on another like 8 people from the DOD and the CIA. So they're all part of my company. And the first thing we did was take those videos to the New York Times and out the program. And then we went and spent 2 years briefing all the committees in the Senate and Congress and the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. So now you're seeing hearings. The DOD admitted UFOs are real. The Navy admitted, that's all us. The hearings at Congress and the UAP task force, that's all that. We started all of that. And it all started with me just being a little punk rock kid, just going, I'm going to fucking do this. Not really knowing what I was playing with,
So I mean, it's super impressive. And I love how well you communicate too. Your ability to tell stories is really...
Well, thank you.
Can you help us understand what's the significance of UFOs? Like,
they're not coming from, well, I should say it this way. The significance of UFOs is multiple parts, but number one, it's not what you think it is. It's not coming from other planets. The evidence doesn't suggest that.
Interdimensional.
Yes. And the reason is because time is parallel. It's not linear. Or it's not like we start here and go forward in time. Time is side by side, which means everything in the past and the future is existing in this moment, but within different frequencies. So a civilization that's at the end of their technological cycle could build a submarine that changes its voltage and materializes in that same location, just into our timeline. And then fucking, It's crazy.
That was well articulated. I like that.
So there's a consciousness aspect to this. Like you have to think of like, consciousness is like, it's like the mind of God,
Okay, so it's kind of strange to toy with the idea that time isn't linear, that time actually does exist within itself, but you have to think of the concept that we invented. Our concept of time is completely constructed by us. There's no real, and in fact, not all human cultures even like really acknowledged age. There are plenty of cultures who thought like you just were young until you weren't young, and then you were old when you were old. That there wasn't like an age to it, and there was no point to keep track of it. There was just more of this reliance on crop cycles that kind of put us into this hole where we have to do everything on this, cycle. Before then, there wasn't a cycle, there was just existence. So perhaps we alter our consciousness, or we change our perspective to more believe that it's not linear because of the reality we've built ourselves. It's like we built the rules of the game. However, we can leave the game still. It may not be that time is linear. So from what he's saying about UFO travel, if there was, dude, I always make the comparison. You go back to 1850 and I show someone, you know, me hooking up my smartphone via Bluetooth to a speaker and pumping some like Lil Nas or something, that's gonna blow their fucking mind. Like legit magic, more magic. That's a miracle to them. That's 150 years ago. What the fuck you think in 1,000 years they're gonna be like? They're like, yeah, I delineate time and just travel like, you know, cross-dimensionally.
Your brain is what's called a transducer. You're an antenna. Consciousness.
Yeah, it's what I was saying to
Duncan Trussell.
Yeah, Duncan Trussell.
So you create matter. And when you think something, it creates it. And you're not reactionary to your environment. You're actually proactive and you just don't know it. So it really matters what you choose to see and feel, because that's literally what's being created for you. And people don't know this shit. So when you're like really into some crazy shit, the universe will start creating things and we just think it's paranormal. Yeah. Like, for example, at UCLA, they were studying poltergeist events and they found out that you can see a book move on the shelf.
These are the conversations where I start to, you know, fall off a little bit. I don't know if it's because my mindset gets a little too logical, because this thought that you could believe things into existence, or that you actually create matter, substance, whatever, through just thinking, it comes off a bit religious to me. It comes off desperate and hoping that there's a little more that makes us special. Again, can't credit it out because you don't always want to be the cynic who says, you know, this could just be a simulation where we are like the main character. You know, that's also a possibility that you can't rule out. However, those conversations about believing things into existence carry less meaning to me than ones about, you know, maybe perhaps our relationship with time or our relationship with the reality we live in, rather than, you know, oh, you can just like pray things into existence. However, you know, maybe it has some merit that your conscious thoughts and how you live your life can have an effect on your surroundings, like kind of like the weather has an effect on, you know, plants. If it's stormy, the plants don't grow well. If it's sunny, the plants grow well. So be sunny.
You. But if you see a book move on the shelf and it scares the shit out of you, that book will then fly off the shelf and try and hit you. So the more scared you get, the more shit starts happening. And they didn't know why. Well, the reason is you're a transducer of your environment. You're an antenna plugging into all these frequencies. And once you go, oh, that book is moving, it'll move. You know, so it's fucking crazy. It's like our universe, it's just not what we think it is. And the whole thing with UFOs is that they're fucking around with us because of that.
I think of UFO as like a vehicle,
right,
which aliens are going to travel in.
Yeah. And
so should we not be using the term aliens?
Yeah, alien UFO? Is hard only because it's like that makes us think it's coming from Mars or some shit or a different planet. These are more like entities. These are more like a lot of them are there's like clones that are like just fucking like, you think we made Dolly the sheep and we think that we're like, you think that's all we've done in the 60s, we cloned a sheep? We might be a little bit more advanced than that.
Right.
So
he's 100% true on this. I mean, this revelation and this AI that we're going through, we're not really going to see the effects of it because I think that they're discovering things at such a profound rate that there's almost no practical application to it. Think to like Tesla, you know, where this guy is doing things that are completely out of the realm of where the world is at. I think we've stumbled across an intelligence that's more than our own, and we weren't ready for that. We didn't grow enough, you know, whether that be spiritually or whatever, to really come across that power, to have the mechanics of thought taken away from us, that we don't have to think anymore. The trial and error can be taken by a literal non-human thought process, which is kind of strange and a bit dystopian if you think about it.
Are they little program bots? Well, where's like the mainframe? Well, maybe the ship is alive in a mainframe, biological organism, but it's metal and whatever, but there's an intelligence to it because it's so advanced.
Okay.
So the theory that they started showing up at the time we did nuclear weapons, they're not here to protect us. One
thing we found out is that the EMP wave from a nuclear blast kind of travels through multiple dimensions. So it's like that energy is fucking up whatever's in that location, and maybe those people are like, what the fuck was that?
That's legit a study at CERN. Is that they see that these kind of frequencies or these rippling effects goes through space-time. Like they may be going into other dimensions, like this fourth dimension we don't see. Which if you think of like time running parallel to each other, that fourth dimension is easier to put in your head. For example, If I could move across multiple timelines, that's another direction of movement, a fourth direction in my movement across parallel timelines. That could make sense, and perhaps there is enough. Pretty much what happens when you have a nuclear explosion, right, is you have a ball that's just like this heavy steel, tungsten or whatever. You close it, and there's a reaction that goes on with the uranium or the plutonium that just like super, I forgot, it's like super critical or whatever, and it just keeps amping it up faster and faster and faster and faster and faster until it just destroys this steel ball and explodes into nuclear explosion. You could blow up all of Staten Island with one bomb.
Holograms and technologies and making people not be together, making us think that there's a dude like Allah or Jesus that created the universe versus source intelligence, which is like your bandwidth, your fiber optic cable just to like consciousness, which is like the one power that powers the atom, that permeates everything. And we're all from it. But as long as we think it's a dude, and that group over there thinks it's a different dude, we're going to hate each other, right. And we don't really evolve, and we don't really grow spiritually. For example, there's a document that leaked that described something coming from another planet, and then it hit like a meteor, and then it all came down, and then we retrieved these bodies in the craft and whatever. So I knew this document, and then I was in a meeting, I can't say with who and what it was all about, but I found out during that meeting that was misinformation, the part about the meteor and coming from another planet. And then they leaked the document. And the whole point was for us to keep thinking these are coming from planets and shit.
Sounds insane. But again, I have other knowledge that makes this extremely, I don't want to get back too much into it because, it has to deal with like a horrific event. But I saw a live event of a mass shooting, right? And I watched it from beginning to end. It was completely random. I think there were about 500 people on that Facebook Live. And I saw misinformation happen in real time. And it was about stuff I didn't understand. They were talking about multiple cars. They were talking about different routes. They were putting in
everything.
I will say he does look a little less coked out. On Joe Rogan, he looked bad. He looked like Whitney Cummings bad.
I can do less ticket prices. 40 is I think the most I charge. And then people to bring people that don't know you. Mm-hmm. Like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna go here, and it's like clubs are more a casual affair for people.
I'm saying this as I'm saying this.
We're going to start off with some marbles and see what we're going to talk about today. I'm kind of hoping for alien abductions to pull another one out, actually. And without further ado, dating shows is actually taking a huge lead. Is it going to pop off the map? Oh, there it goes. Childhood trauma had no issue yesterday on the straightaway, and sex advice goes down. Loneliness in the digital age, fall into the desert. Methodically thinking, what a planner. Are we going Tom DeLonge? Come on, alien! Semen terrorism trying to come in third. No, I think alien abduction's got to take the right path. Wonderful.